We're back, and this time we're doing week 3, set 1, SWYK 2 notes. Okay, so we'll get right into this. The absolute value bars are not isolated. They are not by themselves, so the first thing we need to do is start manipulating that algebra. Let me zoom in here a little bit so you can see what's going on. Yes, we are adding the 5 to the other side, right? That gets rid of this. Then we are dividing by 2. That gets rid of this. 7 plus 5 is 12. And 12 divided by 2 is 6. Now we've got the absolute value bars isolated, which is exactly what we want. Now it's time to split them up. All right? And we're splitting them up into 2. One that looks exactly like the original. One that looks like the original, except for the opposite side got changed to -6. Okay, so that's a little bit different here. And now I can solve these things, right? Should just start solving them. Add 4, so now that's 10, and divide by 3. So that would be y equals 10/3. Now, 10/3, that's, if you're a decimal fan out there, 3.3 repeating, or 3.33, it is repeating, so it goes on for a long ways. And then the other one, well, so add the 4. That's creating -2, and you're dividing by 3. So that would be -2/3. So those are our answers here. Y equals -2/3, okay, and 10/3. So takes care of those. Whoops. On to our next question. All right, so once again, absolute value bars, not isolated. So we're moving the 5 to the other side by adding. That's obviously creating our 20, but then we want to divide by 4, so those cancel out. And that, of course, leaves me with 5 on that side. I'll slide this over so you can see my work. Once the absolute value bars are isolated, it's time to split them up, right? 2y minus 3 equals 5, and 2y minus 3 equals -5. So we split them into 2 parts. Of course, then we can start the whole adding 3, dividing by 2 strategy. So we know that one of the answers, 8/2, is 4, right? That's 8 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And that's where we get 4 as one of our answers. And then we can add the 3, and get 2y equals -2 divided by 2. You get -1. Now, so my answers are 4 and -1. I promise you, if you go back and plug them in, you're going to find out that they both work. If you would end up with a negative number right there, that would cause a no solution situation to happen. All right, so if you're doing the process, you get that value right there. You get the absolute value bars isolated, and that number right there is a negative. Yes, that would be a no solution, and then I would have wasted my time to try all this other stuff. If there's a variable outside the absolute value bars, that's when we need to check for extraneous solutions. But we aren't in that situation right now, so we don't have to. All right. I mean, you know, math people are always going to try to threaten you to make you feel that way, but you don't really need to. That's just math teachers want you to do more work. I mean, seriously, you know, it's good for you. I know. All right, so the absolute value bars are by themselves. Oh, hey, we do have a situation where we need to check for extraneous solutions when we get done for those extra solutions in case one of them is wrong. We split it up. Notice that the first one looks exactly like the original one. The second one, notice how I wrote this. The opposite of 6x plus 7. Now, the reason I wrote it like that, you'll notice that right underneath it, I distributed the -1, right? That's all I did, was I distributed this -1. Reason I did it that way was because a lot of kids forget. Now, they'll get this minus sign, or they'll change that first one, but they always forget somehow that both of them have to change. And then they get themselves into some serious trouble and get the wrong answer. As you can see, I tried to draw some arrows here to indicate that we are going to bring our x's over to this side. So if I subtract an x, that's going to give me 5x on this side. and then I'm going to subtract a 7, and that's going to give me negative 10. And so if I do the division, right, if I take negative 10 and I divide by 5, we end up with negative 2. Okay, so that's one of our answers. If I go to the other one and start doing the same thing, subtract the x to the other side, right, minus x and minus 6x, that's minus 7x. And then, of course, if I bring the other to the other side, I'm going to be adding 7, and that gives me 4. So I'm dividing by negative 7, and I get negative 4/7. That's a weird number. Okay, so now we're going to have to actually plug them in and check. All right, so we come over here. We got negative 2 minus 3 with the absolute value bars equals 6 times negative 2 plus 7. Well, on the right side, we end up with the absolute value of negative 5. Everybody and their brother knows that's 5, right? Because the absolute value is distance away from 0. On the other side, I've got negative 12 plus 7. That's negative 5. Oh, my goodness, they are not equal. So negative 2 is an extraneous solution. It is not an acceptable solution to this question. How about that negative 4/7? Okay, now I'm going to come back up here. Negative 4/7 minus 3. Okay, all right. So what is that? That's the absolute value of negative 3 and 4/7. That's kind of weird. So we know that that is 3 and 4/7. Okay, on the other side, I've got to multiply 6 times negative 4/7 and then add it to 7. Okay, using my handy-dandy machine, 6 times negative 4/7. 6 times negative 4/7, okay, plus 7 gives me 3.57-ish. Hey, I bet if I type 3 plus 4 over 7, yep, it's the exact same thing. It gives me that 3.57 number, and it goes on for a long ways. It's a repeating pattern. We won't talk about that right now, but it's the same on both sides. Therefore, the only answer to this question is negative 4/7. And then we'll move on to the next question if we have time. Although it's very much the same, so we might not have time for it. I'm going to pause and see where we're at in this video. Why can't I see my controls? It would be nice if I could see my recording controls. Haha, I moved to the bottom corner. Anyway, so this last question, just so that you're aware, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I wrote it all out. Why did I do that? That's not what I wanted. No, okay, wrong thing. Here, get rid of that. Come back, get rid of that. My goodness, this is taking me forever. There's the question, the original question. It's got its absolute value is already isolated, so you can split it into its two equations. Then you can solve them, and you end up with negative 2 as one of your answers, and negative 1/3. And then when I went through the process of checking for extraneous solutions, I realized that negative 2 was a bad one. Negative 1/3 was the only good one out of the bunch. So that's that problem, and now I'm done with my video, which is too long. Oh well.